Go ahead.
How many safeties would you like to keep on the roster?
Depends. Honestly, that's a blend of Howie, Nick, Clay, us. So we're going to keep the best football players, and they're all going to have multiple roles.
Although James Bradberry hasn't practiced this past week, when he has been, what has he? What have you seen out of him that you see beneficial for your defense?
Can play different styles of defense. He's smart. He can cover. Gets the ball tough. His level of understanding, especially being in the first year in the system, and he's a vet, so he's played a lot of ball. But just picking everything up, he's been very comfortable with it. His understanding of what we're trying to get done with different coverages, he understands that, and has been a great addition for us.
Does he give your group a little bit more physicality compared to my Slay might be like a little more technique?
No, that group was physical last year, I thought. I mean, they tackle every day, and I don't question any one of those guys in that room's toughness, but to add another player who is a big-time tough guy always helps.
John, what do you think about the tackling on Sunday?
Okay, we missed some, and that's a little bit too, you guys, by game plan specific. We talked to, our guys about tackling certain ball carriers throughout the week. This is a guy that you have to tackle low, or this is a guy you have to tackle high. But we definitely need to clean that up a little bit because I thought there was some leaky yardage in there. I did think our population of the ball was good, but you would like to get the ball carrier on the ground on first contact a little bit more.
What makes somebody that you want to tackle low versus tackle high?
Just the running styles and how big they are or how small they are. So there's some little guys that you want to tackle high because you miss if you go low, and there's vice versa with some big guys you want to tackle low because if you tackle him high, he's gonna push the pile a little bit. So and that's there's all kinds of different tackles in space, in the core, in the box. Is it a frontal tackle or an angle tackle? So but you want to attack certain ball carriers a different way sometimes.
What are some things you're looking for from your defense specifically against the skilled players on the Dolphins?
Yeah, excited. This is just like Cleveland, it's a brand new scheme, significantly different scheme from what we run, from what Cleveland runs, and we know they got some weapons, so it'll be good to see if we can play without game planning them, play our calls that we're going to play and execute them at a high level, and within that, knowing issues or matchup issues and play accordingly.
With Josiah playing safety and Andre at nickel, is it about those two players and their skill sets, or are those positions often interchangeable?
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways to do it depending on the player, so that's kind of a case-by-case basis. But, typically you've seen, you got corners that slide inside, or you got safeties that can slide inside. So it's really just, you said it, it's really their skill set for those two guys kind of fit what within our scheme, what we're asking those guys to do. They've both done a good job with it.
How much is Miami's speed on paper, at least a good test for what you want to see from your
Really
defense?
good test. They got some guys with some major gas, which will be good for our guys to see that type of speed. But, for 3 weeks, we see speed too. So it's just a little bit. And, where they deploy people is a little bit different than our offense. That's why it's going to be good to see, if we can execute at a high level with, a different skill set of their players and a different scheme than ours.
What have you seen of Josh Jobe pre-draft, and now that you have him in the building, how much of that is born?
Yeah, what we saw on tape was, the pre-draft was he had really good coverage ability. He was smart and tough, and since he's gotten here, that's what he's proved to be. So I really like where Josh is at as that whole group. I like, where they're at as far as their coverage ability, their tackling, their understanding of the defense, and we just got to continue to get better, a little bit better every day.
As you imagine Kyzir throughout camp, and how easily has he adapted to this defense?
Very easily. He's another one that's extremely intelligent. He's played in a system a little similar to ours, so it wasn't, completely, polar ends of the spectrum when he got here. He just had to put it in our verbiage a little bit. But he's doing a really good job as far as being where he needs to be, executing at a high level in the run and pass game and production.
As you created your defense and your philosophy, what made you want to be so matchup specific and game plan specific
as opposed to kind of mastering one particular thing?
Yeah, it just, it's a good question. 2022 offenses look a lot different than they did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I never wanted to get into a meeting on a Monday and said, well, we did everything right and they still beat us because of our scheme got us beat or because of the matchups that we knew weren't advantageous to us got us beat. So that's the reason for a little bit of adaptability with scheme week to week, as you guys see, is, what we do is predicated on how we need to win this game. And that goes to, like we've talked about it, is our people, their people, people versus people, people versus scheme, scheme versus people. And that's how we'll always evaluate it.
John, do you see someone as a leader of your safety group?
We've got a lot of leaders on that defense. Marcus Epps is kind of taking a little bit of a leadership role more than last year, because he's playing more and his production's high and he does everything right. Anthony Harris is another one. I mean, he's been a leader since I met him as an undrafted rookie, in Minnesota. So he's got leadership traits. But that whole room, from a football character standpoint of doing things right on a daily basis, that's what a leader is to me, and they all do that.
Nick talks a lot about having the advantage of surprise heading into week one. With all the new defensive players you have, how do you get the practice of the looks you want for this season while also not giving things away in training camp?
Yeah, last year we probably, I don't want to say hid, but we probably didn't do as much in preseason games because we didn't want it, everyone to see that going into the first couple weeks. But this year we're kind of playing our stuff. The book's out. People know what we're going to do. It just comes down to execution and our players winning at a high level. But I feel really good where we're at right now as far as, especially after these next 2 days with joint practices, you want to see all different parts of your scheme, what you're going to use in a certain game, go up against different people and different schemes. And not to say, again, we're not game planning for these practices, but you want to say, hey, if I call this and you've never seen a look, can we execute it, and get what we want to get done with the call. So really excited for these next 2 days.
Where does Davion Taylor stand as he gets into his third year? Do you still view him as a developmental guy, or should he be kind of figuring out?
No, all those guys in that linebacker room are competing for playing time to be starters and be on this team, and that's where he's at.
Do practices give you enough of a sense of how you are as a run defense in terms of your run phase, or do you need to be live to gauge that?
Yeah, no, I mean it's live until you hit the ball. You know what I mean? So we have a really good, that's kind of the last piece is the tackling, and we want to see us, make tackles because that's what a game is. But in practice, that box is completely live. So I feel good about that evaluation of where those guys are at, playing blocks, putting their hands on the right people. In my opinion, pretty good. We still got to keep working on some things, and that's a continuous process. And we got, how many more, a couple weeks before we play, which we need to keep improving where that part of the game is. But I like where they're at right now.
You have large body of work with Jordan Davis. Where has he impressed you the most, and where does he need to improve the most?
I would say all our players, not Jordan, is consistency. That's always going to be the improvement part. And what he's done a good job with is playing multiple spots and changing his technique by the call. And I've really seen a pretty good jump from him the last week or so where he's understanding, hey, I can be more aggressive here, or I can't be as aggressive with this call. With this blocking scheme, I want to do this to the block. I don't want to do this. So just his understanding of what he needs to get done with his position when the offense gives him certain things, I think that has really improved.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.